hello. Nice to see you, nice. I'm so sorry I was late. I just got, something happened on my computer and I got kicked out of my YouTube account and like locked out. And I had to recover my YouTube account, which took a little bit of time. But luckily I got it back. Even though it asked me to go into another account, which I hadn't been into years. I wasn't sure I could get into that one. But it worked. So here we are, and the talk is going ahead, but my apologies if you've been sitting there like, where is she? She said she would be here. Oh, she's such a flake, a hippie flake. I am. A hippie flake. So nice to see you. I hope you've all had a nice day. And now we shall begin the talk on non-duality. First of all, I always like to do a bit of meditation. Sorry, this is so professional. My box that's my feet rest is just collapsing. Yeah, we do a bit of a meditation first. I just do an introduction for those of you that are new, which is unlikely with new people, but if there is new people, then I shall explain how everything works. So, I start this talk normally at 6 o'clock French time, and for 10 minutes I just leave my music playing while people sign in. So I normally start speaking about 10 past 6. And then I do a little bit of an introduction and tell everyone how it works. And then at about maybe 20 past 6, I do a meditation for 20 minutes. Then maybe 6:30, 20 to 7, I do the introduction talk. So every talk, I do an introduction for 20 minutes. And then at about 10 past 7, I take questions and answers. And I take preference currently to people that want to call in. And the way that you can call in is through Skype, which is Lisa Cairns 12. You can find that in the box below if you missed that, Lisa Cairns 12. And you send me a Skype request and then just put call me with nothing else so I can see it in my notifications. Call me, and then don't press any more lines down, otherwise I won't see that it says call me. Don't put call me and then hearts underneath, just call me. But you can also write questions on there, and if don't have enough callers, then I will do the written questions next. I don't always complete all the questions, sometimes I do, and so if I don't complete them, then send them again the next Sunday and then I can complete them. I also do sessions, one-to-one sessions. You're welcome to find that on my website. I'm normally 2 or 3 months booked up in advance. There is a waiting list you can go on to, but normally the waiting list is quite busy, so it's down to luck as to whether you get a session. Yes, and you can also there sign up to sponsor people to have sessions, or to be sponsored to have sessions. Yes. What else? I don't do any retreats. Maybe I don't do anything this year. I'm still thinking about it, but yeah. Maybe I do an online retreat this year. So you can follow my blog, follow my website, you can follow me on Facebook and find out about all this type of stuff. And a few talks ago, I was moaning about paperwork. I wasn't really moaning, but someone asked me why I don't do more online stuff. And it's really because I just don't, my answer was I don't have enough time. And if I did an online retreat, there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with that, like programming my website, and then all the tax paperwork that I have to do as well. And I'm currently writing a book at the moment, and I just don't really have the impulse and the energy to do that side of things. And I didn't mean to sound negative about people donating, because then somebody said, why don't you do donations? And I was like, yeah, but I still have to do a lot of paperwork for that. And it wasn't meaning to sound negative. If you send me a donation, I'm so grateful. But if I did an online retreat and it was it would be a lot more donations, and then there would be a lot more paperwork. And just currently, I'm so focused on writing this book that it's like when I'm not doing one-to-one sessions or talks or walking to Lisi or cooking my dinner or spending time with my partner, then I forgot how I started that sentence. I don't have much more time to do those types of things, to program my website, to organize these things, to write information about it, to book people on. Yeah, there's a lady that helps me, and maybe I can give all this work to her, but I'm not really sure how much of it I can in the end, because I'd have to train her, and yeah, so we see. So yeah, so I just wanted to clear that up if anyone felt like they donated to me and I was like being negative about donation. I'm so grateful. It's so sweet and so kind, and it really touches me, because traditionally in India, like all talks were done by donation, and like I love that idea. I tried it for a while in the West, and it doesn't practically work, because people think that by donation means free. So yeah, it just doesn't work. It's like yeah, and people don't respect it. It's just because of the way we're brought up. Whereas in India, they're brought up to appreciate and to give these types of things. They see it as a spiritual practice. Whereas Westerners are like, it can't be much good if it's but free, and you're like, it's donation. It can't be much good if it's free. It's free. Yeah. So that. What next? Yeah, I do these talks every Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. Just in case I missed that bit out. I think that is everything. And if there's mistakes with my audio, please feel free to tell me on Skype. I really appreciate it, because I can't tell about the technical issues. I'm doing everything here. I'm like the camera person, the sound person, I'm the internet person, I'm the speaker. It's like 40 Towers, if you've ever seen 40 Towers. I'm like all the roles. So yeah. Okay, so now maybe we can do some meditation. So I just give you a bit of a disclaimer before we meditate. So the separate person. So first of all, I want to clarify some things. Like I always am changing the way I speak. It's just my personality. I'm triple Gemini or double Gemini, depending on this astrology system that you follow. And my nature is to change things and to evolve, and I love that, like finding different ways to speak about it. It keeps me excited. In some ways it's like the same, but there is also evolution and a change to the way I speak always. And recently I've been trying to slip in, and maybe it's not recently, but maybe it's just recently I've noticed this. Like I try to slip in that there has to be identification with the body. And I think this has been confusing people, because I also equally say all identification with the body is suffering. And I just haven't really thought about that. Like to me, nothing I say is truth. Like I'm pointing to the truth. So it's like the finger is pointing at the moon, but the finger isn't the moon. So I'm pointing to something deeper, but I don't actually have the ability to be correct in this subject. And it doesn't come with a manual. You don't have like these awakenings and then like a manual pops out of your orifice somewhere, like under your arm. Like, there's manual. Oh yeah. It's not something I plan. It's something I try to do spontaneously. Like that's really, I think the meaning of these talks is for it to be spontaneous, and there's this like resonance that can happen if it's coming from this innocent place. But it it also comes through the filter of this body. So whatever information has gone into this body or not gone into this body, like the output of the talks is going to be in that line. So I'm not going to suddenly start doing the talks in Japanese or doing the talks like heavily influenced by Sufism, because I don't know Sufism. So I do it, so the talks come out in the flavor of this body. But in another way, what the beauty is of these talks, or the spontaneity of them, is they're coming out of the now, they're coming out of presence, of this moment. But when Lisa, the character, is evolving, she says things that contradict themselves, and she has to learn and think about that and update this body-mind mechanism, and then they begin to change. And so when I'm saying that all identification with the body is suffering, I now need to adjust that, because I'm saying there is some identification with the body that has to remain. And so I was thinking about it, and I was thinking maybe more what would be correct for me to say is identification with the personality structure, which also contains the body. But it's like this new thing that I want to try to express, or it feels like it's a new thing, but I'm maybe doing it for years, is that consciousness needs to be looking from an angle. There needs to be some attachment to these bodies, otherwise it would float off into everything and you die. Like, that's my feeling on it. And maybe I've been saying that differently through the years, and maybe through me thinking about this and talking about it, there will be a shift in the way that I speak about it. But I just wanted to clarify that from people that have been writing, asking questions about that, and some people feeling upset or hurt by that, which I can understand. But also, it's like you have to try and hear beyond the concepts and like figure it out and put it together, like look, you do when you see some beautiful piece of art. That this subject isn't like a perfect logical jigsaw puzzle where it all matches up. It's more like a poem where it doesn't always make sense, but it's pointing to something beyond that. So yes. Then the next thing I'd say about meditation is that when I talk about meditating, it sounds like I am giving a prescription to somebody in time to do something. And that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you look at it from the greater perspective, you begin to see that there is no one really here giving a prescription to somebody out there. There is energies interacting, and there's these like chemical reactions that happen, and then something comes from that. But it doesn't mean there's independence. Like, so whether you meditate or not is dependent on all the other things. It's dependent on everything. It's what we do in the human world is put it down to a me that's doing. Like, I'm separate from all other things, and I'm in control of this, and I can meditate if I want to. And I'm either a good meditator or a bad meditator. And this is very limited thinking. Life is so much bigger and greater and more mysterious than that idea. It's so much bigger than that idea that you could get it wrong or right, or that you're going to meditate. That's relatively speaking, so it's how we communicate in the human world. But actually, we don't know how you are going to meditate. We don't know if you are. It's something that happens or doesn't happen, and there's a narrator that's saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to choose to meditate, and I better do well. But actually, the act of it is quite mysterious and magical in its appearance. Like, in the moment of sitting down and closing your eyes, like, how do you do that? Close your eyes. How do you do sitting down? I tell my body to sit down, and that's really logical and makes sense, but it's also kind of really simplistic. We don't know how the body sits down. Like, so you're like, this muscle pull, it's just kind of happening. When I was younger, there used to be this alleyway behind the school that we would walk in to go home. I liked the sounds in the alleyway. And it always used to give me this sense, when I looked down at my legs, that my legs were walking, and I wasn't telling them to walk. Like they were walking. It wasn't me doing it. I'd be like, look, look. So my mom or my dad or my grandparents, my legs are walking, my legs are walking. It wasn't like I was like, left, right, left, right, left, right. They're just walking. And I just always had this really like sweet, profound experiences in this one alleyway. There was something about the echoes and the stillness and maybe the joy to be out of school as well. So when you go to meditate, even though you're telling the story that you're going to meditate and you commit to meditating, it's also, who is this one that's meditating? And who is this one that you believe I am that's prescribing? Like when you really go into the heart of being, when you really go into the heart of life, you see that there is no one. There is no independence or individuation. There is only everything. And there's the appearance of all of that, but it's not your reality. When you believe it's your reality, then that's when you suffer. When you believe that's your only possibility, you suffer because you're identified with the personality structure and the person. And I mean, you could say the ego as well. A lot of people like that word. Like, so there's this identification with it. And through that identification, everything about you becomes too serious and too weighty and too heavy. Like you believe that your happiness is dependent on the outcome of the personality structure, on your emotions, on your thoughts, on your feelings, on your ideas. Really, your freedom and your peace is the presence that you are, is what everything's arising from. And that part has been forgotten in humanity. The stillness of your presence and your aliveness is forgotten. The only thing that's remembered is movement and me. Me, time. Has anyone ever wondered why the word me is in time? Me and time are synonymous. I'm going for these big words, which is difficult for a dyslexic. Well, not all dyslexics, but for this particular dyslexic. It's not that I don't know them, it's just the pronunciation. There's issues with pronunciation sometimes for dyslexics. So if you hear me, sometimes I wonder if I'm more popular. No, that's a rude joke. But if you hear me making a mistake with my words, then just go to what the nearest word it kind of sounds like, and then you're most probably right. Oh, florist. This is the natural florist of life. This is a natural of life. Phenomenon. I was just joking. Yeah. So that's so who is it that meditates? That's my point. Then the next point to this is the act of meditating. Meditating isn't about getting somewhere. As soon as you set up the paradigm of I've got to get somewhere, you're going to put stress on yourself, and sometimes that can be helpful, but not in meditation. It just will make you more stressed. There's just the activity of what you're being instructed to do, and that's it. And success and failure are irrelevant. My teacher used to say that just appearing on the seat is success. Basically, judging yourself over the quality of your meditation is just suffering. And it's absolutely not true. And it comes from a deep belief that you've done something wrong. So it's buying into this belief system. Basically, it's just sitting down and letting the system calm down. rather than always doing, must achieve. That's all. And it's, you do it, you present yourself, and then you give it to God. My ex, one of my friends, it's always terrible to say my friend used to say, if you're constipated, you just present yourself to the toilet and then something will surely happen. That's the same with meditation. You just present yourself and something will surely happen, and that's perfect. You could also see it from a more existential position of nothing will actually happen. So the meditations that I recommend is number 1, the mindfulness of breathing, which is just counting your breath. So every time you breathe in, you count 1, next breath 2, next breath 3, 4, and all the way up to number 10. That's it. And then when you get to number 10, you come back to number 1. So you're just counting your breath 1 to 10, and then back again, 1 to 10, and back again. The next one is to move your attention into beingness. So putting your attention directly into what's happening. And then the third one is just sitting there and doing nothing and letting the mind do whatever it wants to do. If it wants to think about Coca-Cola or food or how successful you're going to be in the future or that you're a failure, just let it do whatever it wants to do. And that one's on the theory of it's a bit like a champagne bottle that you... No, champagne's not good, but like a Coca-Cola bottle that you really shake up. And then you take the lid off instantly and it goes everywhere. Whereas if you just let it just sit there, then eventually that will begin to dissipate. It might still have some pressure in it, but it will dissipate. Just on that idea. Okay, now we will begin to meditate. We're a bit late starting, so we might not do so long. So if you just shut your eyes. Nice. Okay, so what's the name of the talk? I have to have a look because I forgot. The Unbroken Heart. Nice. Okay. So I think in traditional Advaita, the way that they would teach beingness, which to me is the same as I am or amness, if you want to totally take out the I, be very fundamental about it. So what that means is, I don't know what that means. So what the way they would traditionally speak about it is that it's the first manifestation. Is the I am. And I think Ramana Maharshi is famously quoted for saying that beingness or I am appears from the left side of the heart. And Nisargadatta and Maharishi recommended that you go back to that original I am. Like go back to the first appearance in this life. So I think that it goes, the body appears and then I am appears. And so it's kind of really spectacular, this image. You kind of have to be a bit flexible in the mind with this, like just imagine it more like poetry than like scientific fact. So when they say like it appears in the left side of the mind, and the left side of the mind, left side of the heart, like, so it seems to be this finite spot, the left side of the heart. So it seems to be this finite spot that beingness comes into. That's something you can grab hold of. But actually, it's a bit like a fractal when you look at it, because when you begin to go into the I am, which is the left side of the heart, which maybe is the center of the chest. I don't really know anatomy. Maybe just here, the left side of the heart. I just imagine it in this area. So it feels like a finite spot, but when you go into it, it's like a fractal, because actually it is infinite. It isn't finite. So that beingness, which appears to be the left side of the heart, is actually everywhere and everything, and doesn't exist in the body. It seemingly exists in the body, but it's also simultaneously everywhere. So it's like the body is everywhere, and it's also seemingly in the body at the left side of the heart. So maybe that's what the title means, the unbroken heart. And it is unbroken. It's never had its heart broken. It's never cried. It's never been upset about something. It's never rejected anything. It's just there, beaming away as love, this alive presence, which is everywhere and nowhere, which is all things and no things. When identification with the person happens, like there's an identification that the body is you, that the thoughts are you, that the feelings are you, that the consciousness is you, that the experiences are you, the memories are you, the ideas are you. Whereas actually none of that is who you are. Those are phenomena that are arising and coming and going, and constantly changing and being updated and transforming. What the identification does is it kind of pulls all these things together and makes it into this ball and puts it inside the body and makes it feel like it's you. And the source of this identification has an agitation to it. It always feels like there's something not quite right. So no matter what it gets, whether it becomes like a Hollywood actress or travels the world or becomes the president or has 10 children, whatever its fantasies are, there's always this agitation that there's something not quite right. And which is true, because there is a lie that's happening in your experience, and the lie is that who I am is a personality structure, whereas who you are is beingness, is this beingness and this empty looking, which are one and the same thing actually. But we can kind of separate them out for speaking purposes. And that's so beautiful, that realization, but for most people that's hidden their whole life. And they're trying to maintain an identity of themselves, which is always changing. So this identity of somebody that's a good girl, that's a bad girl, that is a successful woman, an unsuccessful woman, a strong man, a weak man, an abused person, an abuser. All these identities that it's trying to hold on to, even if they're painful, and make a you out of it, a solid you that is going to get things, that does achieve things, that is successful, that is something to the world. And without that, most people would feel lost, because that's what they've always been taught they have to be. They have to be someone. They have to be someone for other people, for society. They have to be someone in order to survive. So they don't know, they have no sense of something bigger, that who you are is something much bigger and wider and spacious about that. So when there's an identification with all these things that are an impossibility, there's always fear attached to it. There's always an agitation, which is deeper than all the emotions. It's a seeking energy, which is below all the emotions. And it makes the emotions very solid and very real and creates all these extrapolated thoughts. So when you become really attached to something, then there's fear of losing it. There's fear of getting it. There's fear of not being worthy of it. And then there can be all types of complex thinking around that. That could even turn into hatred, like hatred of another that might steal it. It could even be turned into like hatred of refugees or hatred of immigrants. They might steal it. But underneath that arises from a seeking energy. And there's emotions that are arising. Emotions are kind of natural for the body, but then they get exacerbated, if that's the right word, by the stories that come from the seeking. So for example, if you have a really nice house by the ocean, maybe a fear that the ocean is rising or something is a natural fear, and then this leads you to do something, put sandbags down, dig holes or ditches, build walls in order to stop that happening. And that can be a natural flow of the body. When there's identification with it, there is the belief that you will lose yourself in losing your house. Like your house becomes part of your identity. And so it will then wake you up in the middle of the night with fear. There'll be paranoia about it, constant measuring of the sea. So it sort of exacerbates it, like makes it bigger, makes it more real. When really the truth is peace is, the freedom that you're looking for is in every moment, it's in presence. And then there is ups and downs in life, that is part of life. And we can transform the body-mind mechanism, we can work with it, we can expand it, we can give it more positive schemas and ideas about itself, and it can expand, but that's not your savior. Most people believe that the personality structure is your savior, is their savior, so themself is them savior. And that's true in a way, but it's not the personality structure that's the savior, it's the big self, that which is beyond the personality structure. So most people are always looking in what they do, and then they feel disappointed, like I've failed, I haven't done it right, and that's why I'm unhappy. Most people just end up, when they're in their 30s and 40s, just really stressed. It's like so much pressure being someone. And then they begin to get into this subject, like a meltdown happens, and they begin to look for something more. Because there's another part of you which is never affected by anything. If the house gets destroyed by the sea, there's another part of you that's so still and free and embracing that. And it's kind of bringing these two together. This personality structure and this freedom, and not, there needs to be a certain amount of identification, but just not this total identification that totally believes it's the person, and this is me, and my freedom is found in me. It's like holding them both. Like at first, maybe you have to go to the absolute. Like if you watch my videos in the beginning, I was so extreme, like maybe there has to be like a going to the absolute extreme, but then it's coming back to this middle way that consciousness, life, no thing, everything is having a personal experience. And then this changes the person. It makes the person more relaxed and more happy and more easy and more flowing with everything. But the person is no longer looking for freedom in itself. Freedom is who you are. Freedom is what is. It's so beautiful. And that's such a huge transformation. People take it so lightly, but it's so huge to remember this oneness of yourself. Who you are never comes and never goes. Everything which moves Everything which changes is not you. But we're currently having these human experiences, which is totally miraculous and wondrous and loving and beautiful. And the next part of this, like when there's identification, there's this belief in good and bad. That good and bad is simply a way of navigating this environment, but it doesn't hold truth in it. And people are so identified with what's good and what's bad. And when you begin to have these awakenings, you can have experiences which are so beautiful and profound, where badness is enacted and you realize there is just total and utter love. So somebody can betray you and it's just total and utter love. Somebody can steal from you and it's total utter love. But it's good on the human level that that's recognized that somebody's stealing from you. Like when you have these awakenings, that you can go through this difficult period where you have to be slapped around a bit, because it's good that you recognize if somebody's stealing of you, because that's not the appropriate way to treat people. So you can move away from that person. If you don't move away from that person, you'll like end up no nuggets, no food, no nothing, and they'll get you into trouble. So, but it's so beautiful to know that everything is love. All the bad actions and the good actions. Bad and good is simply defined by us in order to make our society work. So, you know, like in Christianity, that being gay was considered a sin. And it's most probably the reason that it's considered a sin is because it wasn't productive for the production of children. And at that time, people needed to really grow societies. I'm sure there's so much more complexities to it. You know, and inbreeding was considered sin, I think, as well. And I'm sure that's just because if people inbred, then they, you know, the kids, it wasn't good for the kids, like created deformities. But we have like, it's in our society, if you married a cousin or a sibling or something, it would be seen as the most awful thing. It's like ooh, like really awful. But it's only because we made it up. Like animals don't care. Like if Khaleesi was in love with her brother, she would just be in love with her brother, you know. Would be nothing. It's less likely to happen because the dogs are smelling out like differences with their noses. So Khaleesi is really popular with the men here because her genetic body is so different from European dogs. She's from Thailand and she's not got any domesticated breeds in her, which most people think the domestication is just about whether she lives inside or not, but it doesn't. Domesticated breeds are things like Labradors, poodles, and it doesn't mean that she's a mutt. That would include, if she was a mutt, like a crossbreed, that would be domesticated breed. That would be two cross domesticated breeds, but she has no domesticated breed in her. So she's not the same as like a Labrador or a poodle or a crossbreed or anything like that. It's completely different genetics for dogs. So what I notice is that she's so popular with the boys because because of the diversity of her genes compared to European dogs and domesticated dogs. Well, what is she if she's not a domesticated breed, if she's not a poodle? You can't have a not domesticated breeds. There were dogs before domesticated breeds. I think that's only been happening 1,000 years. I'm not sure how long I think it's something like that. And some of them live on, particularly in Asian countries. Yes. So, back to the point though, I just went off on one. Like it wouldn't be an issue, it's what we've made up, and I can feel the taboo of it. Like that's a taboo subject, but it's something we've defined. You know, monogamy is something that we've defined. Polygamy is something we've defined. You know, and there's some communities that are into polygamy, and that's like considered really bad and good and blah 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 blah. We've also defined porn as good or bad. Like spiritual communities tend to be like, meh, 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 meh. Some of them aren't. Like swinging tends to be good and bad. Like all of these things are dependent on your viewpoint. And we don't ultimately know, really. Like we can learn the game of society, and so if somebody's stealing for you, this isn't very good for your survival, and this is going to cause you problems so you can move away. But we've been taught, we live in a cult called this society, and we believe the cults are out there, but we're living in a cult of our society. And we believe everything, like that I'm a human, that this is a chair, that this is a computer, that that is a wall. We're like, I'm driving through my world, but you've been taught all that. Like you watch children from their parents, and the parents from such a young age, you're a boy, you're a girl, you're this, you're that, this is that. And that's great because that's how it functions, but they miss out the most important part, that who you truly are is that which you originally were before you were taught all these things of the world. So I think in Christianity as well, I'm really not versed in this, even though I was brought up in Christianity. I used to find Sunday school so boring that I was like, when I was bored by something I couldn't learn. So Eve eats the apple of knowledge, becomes aware of her own nakedness, and I think it's also, and knows the difference between good and evil, and then gets kicked out of the Garden of Eden. So she realizes that she's naked, and she thinks that is bad, whereas before that there was just innocence. And to me, that's talking about beingness, like going back to beingness. It just sees everything as innocence, everything as pure love. Like when you're in that pure beingness, like you could say, watch a porn movie that most spiritual people would find offensive, where there's lots of swearing and dildos and screwing and fucking, and it's just seen as pure love. Whereas most educated people and people that have reflected on it and spiritual people would see that as degrading to women and violent against women. And that's true, because in the sense that our society wants to evolve towards not doing that towards any women. So that's true in that sense. But actually it's also not. There's also so much more depth. So we can reflect on that and we can see it's degrading, but there's also such a bigger depth to that. It's so much more complicated, and nobody's ever doing anything. It's formation happening. That what we would see as grotesque is just as divine and beautiful as a flower emerging and arising and exploding, and the pollen going everywhere, and the bees coming and taking it in and all merging around their legs, and then them flying off, and then a big bird coming and eating up that bee. Like, it's so orgasmic, the natural ebb and flow of this life. And we take ourselves so seriously, like, you're guilty, I'm guilty, you're guilty, I'm guilty, you're guilty, I'm gay, better, worse, worse. We're so identified with it. We teach our kids in an education system that's all about competition, like whose is the better grade, and then defining that's going to lead you to a better life because you'll get more money. Who's the more intelligent? Who's the more beautiful? And it just totally misses the exquisite nature of what's happening right now. It's so exquisite. There's something so much more deeper than what the cult of our society is pushing on us. Over the last few years, I've had to watch more news than I would like because of Brexit and the other situation that's not so good if I mention it on my streams because the algorithm. The other situation where people are having to stay inside because they travel, and I need to navigate all these things, get the latest information. But it's so biased in news, and I can see how our society is so indoctrinated by this really negative, biased perspective on society and on life. Like, our media has such effect on our society. And it's so biased, like people's view of things, and simplistic. Like it wants to give one edge to a story. So it just goes down that edge, whereas every story is multifaceted, and you can't really do that, but to get those grabbing headlines. But it's the same with all stories. Like even the story that I'm telling, it has like a particular theme in it so we can all follow. But these are just stories in the end, like even me, everything, which is giving us this information, and then we view our world like that. Whereas life is so much more deeper, it's so much more spectacular than the limitation of our dualistic language. Pardon me. It's like we don't know where that language is coming from. We don't know where life is coming from, appearing out of. It just is here. We say it's the past. We say it's our knowledge. We say Lisa is speaking because she chose to. But actually, it is simply appearing like magic, like that divine flower that's like growing and then rising into this big blossom. And we say it comes through time, the bees, the pollination, the growth, evolution. But actually, in this moment, right here, right now, that is simply a biased story that we're telling ourselves that fits in with our communication and our survival and our current perspective on the life. It's actually coming from unknownness, but that's so terrifying for the person that he can't even go there. Like, what is creating this now is not known, is not knowing, is no thing, not a thing. It's appearing out of that right now. It's not appearing from the past. And that is God. That is the freedom. That is the recognition that none of this is separation. It's all coming from one energy, one love, all of it, everything, no matter what someone does to you, no matter what you do to that person. It's one unbroken heart. It's not broken heart. It's only to the broken to the person that dreams that. You're dreaming your suffering. You're dreaming your reality. You're dreaming your heartache. You're dreaming your pain. And you think it's because of the outside. There is no mistake here. It's not because of the outside. Life is in perfect order and flow, good and bad, right and wrong, in all its complexities. Wow, that was a long introduction. I see it's 7:30 all right already. I think I started late because I got blocked out of my account. So I will move to questions and maybe I go on a bit later tonight, but maybe not. So nice. So you can ask questions. Hey, Isabel. Oh, beautiful. I never forget my friend said to me once, the angel, which is a representation of the messenger, is the bridge between nothing and everything. And they have one wing in life and one wing in nothing. And in the middle, the angel is conveying this message. It's beautiful. Which is everything. Everything is the angel. Hey, Nick. Oh, beautiful. The lotus. Hey, Thomas. Hi, Linda. Call me. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. She's not got that message yet, so she's going to get a shock. Linda, Linda, Linda. I just wait a second so she can hear it on Ustream. Okay, I just call.
Hello?
Hey, Linda, it's Lisa.
Hi. Is the sound okay?
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you for asking.
Oh, good. I'm very nervous.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a weird
And
thing
you
that we
can't,
do.
yeah, you can't see me, right?
No, I
That's
can't see you. No one can see
that's
you.
good. Good for
Just
the
hear you.
stream. Better for the stream, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it gives me more internet.
Yeah, more power.
Yeah,
I'm partially just calling to overcome the fear of it,
yeah,
to push past that.
yeah,
And we have a session coming up too, so that was more motivation to push past the
yeah,
fear of it. But
yeah. So
thank you so much for your
that's my
stream.
pleasure. And you can just sit in silence for a moment. So normally, like I get, it's adrenaline really. Like so you, there might be other
Yeah.
thoughts in there as well. Like I'm not good enough, or I don't know. There could be a whole host of thoughts underneath it. But predominantly, what's happening most probably in your body is adrenaline. And if you just
Yeah.
wait, like it generally begins to settle down. You know, sometimes not. Sometimes
Okay.
that can make it worse.
Yeah, we'll wait for a moment.
Yeah.
I think it usually the fear comes from like the fear of screwing up and causing myself pain or you pain. That's usually
Yeah.
the behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The main things that are coming up are just I recognize it's story and it's the character kind of flailing about trying to seeking relief.
Yeah.
Because it's having a hard time lately with basically like intensity of seems like things are getting more and more intense for it like
Yeah.
feelings, contractions, suffering, and like the tiniest event can cause a huge massive like out of proportion reaction, for not all the time of course, but for many months, maybe a year or something, periodically. And I know it's not the outer circumstance, but yeah, the character's just
Yeah.
like having a hard time coping sometimes with it.
Yeah.
I don't so much have a question, Lisa. I just don't know if you have any
Yeah.
thoughts on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think often when we get into the subject and we begin this unpacking ourselves, so we begin to see that the fix isn't out there, then we're kind of left with the weight of that momentum of the person. So I was thinking about it, like when I was at university, like I was just beginning to get into this subject, like this spirituality, and I was so unconscious of whether I was happy or not. So I was just totally in this whirlwind of all events external to me being blamed for my happiness or unhappiness. Like I didn't really have consciousness of it. And some days I could be really excited by what was happening, and some days really in drama, like some days it was hormones or what people did or said seemingly affected me. But there was no sense of it, like everything was just outside. Or inside, as in like I'd done something wrong, but I didn't really have any sense that my mind was projecting this stuff. And when we begin to stop that, and we begin to go in and find ourselves as beingness, you stop feeding it, but as you stop feeding it, it gets bigger. Like so you know, like before, if I was upset about something, you know, I could just blame my boyfriend not giving me enough attention, or I could blame university being too difficult or too easy or I remember like they shut down part of the course and like we were all up in arms and got so angry about it. So my attention could be easily fixed on an external aggravator. And then I could just vent with friends, and we could all moan about it, and something could be done about it. And then there would be some sort of emotional release in that. But when you begin to go in more and more, you get the emotion, but you've got nowhere to place it. But your body's still in that ebb and flow of the build-up of that emotion, of wanting the drama of that emotion and then placing it on something. So it's still in that process of like a wave going into the emotion. So then you begin to realize that it's all your mind, but then it doesn't just give you instant freedom. You might have like awakenings. Normally what it does is the body goes through a period of it becoming more intense, because you're not placing it outside, or you're not placing it on things. You're not relieving it by the world. Like the world was a drug. The world was what you blamed, or you blamed yourself. Like it was. So it's then the energy is like a little nuclear bomb just going off inside your body.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of placed on that program of the attachment to pleasure or aversion to pain program, and doership, but even doership, I think, is based in that. And this fear of pain and and it's all about in time. Like when you're in the moment, there's not a problem, but it's totally. It's just all the projections in time that, from me, that's what the hell is. Like, if something really intense is experienced, but it's not like put in time, it's not actually a problem. It like comes and goes, and then it's done.
I totally agree. And that is truth. There can be some things that you do to relieve the tension from your body. Like, so this is why in India they would recommend like breathing exercises or yoga.
I'm so grateful that you suggested the chakra breathing. I do it almost every day. And it can really help. And I mean, without even trying, the emotional release just happens, because like it's pretty frequent that I'll have like big cries, and like, thank God I live alone right now, because I'll be like screaming and crying, and I think great. I would be committed again to the mental institute if I lived with someone.
That's great that you can release it in that way, and like have space to be able to like really let it out of your body and really go with it. Sometimes the chakra breathing can be too much. It's really intense, that practice. There's also other ones that are more gentle, like Osho also does sound chakra breathing, and then there's also like other breath work that you can do if you look it up on the internet. It's called my words, especially when it comes to words that aren't English, it's terrible for me to try and remember. It's like prana breathing or something. That's the
pranayama or something.
Pranayama, breathing. So you could, like, there's also things like there's holotropic breathing. There's all different types of breathing, like, and yoga. Like what yoga's doing is it's also movement and breathing, qigong, and all of these things are like valves to allow energy out, because you're kind of like taking energy back into yourself rather than putting it all out in the world. Like, my happiness is out there, my sadness is out there. You're kind of putting it back inside the body where it belongs, but there's like a big momentum in that. So there's like
there is.
Like it's gone on for years, not just your lifetime, your parents, your grandparents. Like you're a manifestation of your family line, and like all other humans in a way. Like there's been lots of human suffering in the last couple of thousand years where there's been identification.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I know it's just the period. I guess it has to just run its course. It's just sort of getting through this period, and that's again in putting it in time though.
But in the body world, it's seemingly like going through time. It will relax in time.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for.
I so much appreciate just how the message comes through you, and that I just stumbled upon you some years ago. I'm just so happy that happened.
Oh, nice. Thanks for saying that, Linda. Yeah, lots of love
Oh,
to you, and I look forward to speaking with you in our session.
so do I. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
With pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So sweet. Nice. So we now speak to Brian. I always like to say, give people heads up before I call, otherwise it's maybe like really shocking. Okay, he doesn't know.
Hey, Lisa.
Brian. Hey!
Hey.
You did know I was going to call then?
Yeah, I did hear.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the last person said, I'm always kind of nervous when I call at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
just gonna take
you're so welcome to take your time and to go off into silence. Like I've spent so many years with the Buddhists, and they would always be doing the silence and the wide eyes. Got so very well. Sorry.
What do you mean by the wide eyes?
The like looking into your eyes and being silent. You can't see me because it's kind of like we're delayed, but maybe you'll see it in a few seconds.
Right.
So I have no issue with silence.
Okay. I see the wide eyes now. Yeah. If you don't mind, I'm gonna take a second. I'm gonna grab some water real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. When I was younger, I did this radio interview. This was maybe like 2001 or 2002. And I'd done performing before, but I'd never experienced radio. And they put this like big microphone in front of me, and then like it was live. And then I was like, they gave you a glass of water, and then I'd never experienced this before, where your mouth gets so dry that you can like barely speak. And they kept trying to drink the water, but nothing was happening. I was like,
It's also with like the energy moving, like my throat keeps getting dry.
yeah.
So I guess my I don't really have a question, but like the thing that's been happening is like a lot of like pain body like energy coming up. And when you were speaking about like the irritation like in the body, like the irritation of like identification, like I really felt that, and I think that I have been taking myself like very seriously. And I was reading like The Power of Now like a couple of weeks ago. And what The Power of Now was talking about was like Eckhart Tolle was talking about like going through the body, instead of like trying to get away from it. And I guess I've been like doing a lot of that, like trying to go through the body. but I can also see how that like can really get you into tangles because I start trying to take like charge of like the body and trying to fix things that are like happening like in the system. And thinking that things are going wrong if like the energy isn't flowing, or what's been happening recently is that I felt like very guarded. So I push things away energetically. I probably push people away as well. And so I think a big part of that is like just a identification happening. Like I think that's so I'm wondering like how I can soften that.
Yeah, yesterday I was reading out this quote in one of my sessions, and I feel like I'll read it it's for Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah.
So I feel to read it to you. I couldn't really understand exactly what you said, or I didn't really understand what you were meaning about like the body, like getting all in tangles, like you're trying to take control of it. But
like energetically, like what's happening, trying to like manage it and being like, okay, if things are releasing, then things are going well. If things feel shut down, then they're not.
Yeah.
Then I feel like I have to open up, and I have to be in charge of like opening up and allowing things. But I feel like it's all like identification, like in the end.
So I'll just read you this this quote from Talks with Ramana Maharshi, and then I'll go into the part of the quote that I like. So D is the questioner, and M is Maharshi. The world is materialistic. What is the remedy for it? M. Materialistic or spiritual, it is according to your outlook. And then it says words that I can't pronounce because of my dyslexia and that I'm not Indian. So it says, yeah, I'm not going to try to. But it's basically talking, I think, about like your thoughts, your feelings, the way you relate to God, your karma kind of thing. Make your outlook right. The Creator knows how to take care of his creation. D. What is the best thing to do for ensuring the future? M. Take care of the present. The future will take care of itself. D. The future is the result of the present. So what should I do to make it good, or should I keep still? M. Who is the doubter? Who is the one that wants a course of action? Find the doubter. If you hold the doubter will disappear. Having lost hold of the self, the thoughts afflict you, the world is seen, doubts arise, also anxiety for the future. Hold fast the self, these will disappear. D. How to do it. M. The question is relevant to the matters of non-self, but not to the matter of self. Do you doubt the existence of your own self? D. No, but still I want to know how the self could be realized. Is there any method leading to it? M. Make effort. Just as water is got by boring a well, so also you realize the self by investigation. D. Yes, but some find water readily and others with difficulty. M. But you already see the moisture on the surface. You are hazily aware of self. Pursue it. When the efforts cease, the self shines forth. D. How to train the mind to look within. M. By practice. The mind is the intelligent phase leading to its own destruction for self to manifest. D. How to destroy the mind. M. Water cannot be made dry. Water, seek the self, the mind will be destroyed. So the bit that I particularly wanted to highlight was this part. So who is the doubter? This is Maharshi. It says this, who is the doubter? Who is it that wants a course of action? Find the doubter. If you hold the doubter will disappear. Having lost hold of the self, the thoughts afflict you. The world is seen. Doubt arises, also anxiety for the future. Hold fast the self, these disappear. And then he says how to do that. And then this is the really nice kick to the question, to the answer. Maharshi, the question is relevant to matters of non-self, but not to the self in capital letters. Do you doubt the existence of your own self? So D says how to do it. this question is relevant to matters of non-self, but not to the actual self. So basically what I take from that, and in relation to your question, is that, so say if you've got pain in your body, like if you've got an emotion in your body, the urge is to run away from it, and all Maharishi is recognizing is staying with it. Like you stay with it, you go to the source of it. What normally happens when you're identified is you extrapolate out. So say, just for an example, if you're out on the streets and someone does something rude to you, then you extrapolate out into blame or guilt or shame. And your mind goes wild and they shouldn't do that, they're an asshole, or guilt, I am so bad, I shouldn't have done that, or who do they think they are, or oh my goodness, what if people saw? So it then extrapolates out and then keeps repeating this story. And what Ramana Maharshi is suggesting, I think, it's all down to interpretation though, is that you just come back to the initial feeling. So the initial feeling in that, so if somebody's horrible to you in the street, is a sense that you are bad. I am bad. So it's just coming back to this initial sense of the feeling, I am bad, and going down to the base of it, and then it will disappear. But it's not about getting it to disappear, it's just holding tight to this belief of who you think you are, which is in that moment a bad person underneath everything. And you hold tight to that, and then it all disappears into itself. It's like you can't infinitely hold on to a drop once it dissolves into the ocean. So it's like I am bad initiates from this like massive infinite self, the big self. And then it's you hold on to this thought of being bad, and then that will begin to disappear. And this is what I get the sense that a lot of non-duality teachers are, speaking about when they're saying just stay present to the emotion. It's not about getting rid of it. It's that what begins to dissolve is the illusion of the I that believes they are bad.
So it's like you become focused on the drop.
And you just come focus on the drop, and then you'll begin to see that it's totally like in a massive ocean of water. And then the next part to what he says is really sweet, because the question, how do I do this? The question is only relevant to the matters of the non-self. So the non-self is always obsessed with how do I do that? How do I arrive? But who is doing that? Who is going to arrive where? Like it's only relevant, this question, to the person. But it's like just becoming truthful to what you are now. What you are now is you believe you're a bad boy, for example. I am bad. It's just holding on to that, and that illusion will die. It's really I am. And it's even more intimate than that. It's like our amness, which is also emptiness and consciousness as well. It's so sweet. So I don't know how that relates with what you asked. Like I know you asked about the pain body and stuff, but I didn't really understand exactly what you were saying was the problem, but that's what just came to mind.
Yeah, I guess the mind doesn't really know what the problem is, right?
Yeah.
It's just like make something up.
Yeah. It's just coming back to what you feel in this moment. So like if you feel like you are bad, that's the reality, and it's coming back to that rather than extrapolating out with all the octopus legs into all the dimensions of how you're bad. It's like it's coming back to I am bad, I'm bad, and then the badness begins to disappear because nothing lasts forever, and what's left is I am, is amness, I am. And that I am isn't separate from everything. That I am is that initial sense of being, which is everything, it's empty, it's nothing, you're not anything. This I am isn't anything. Or this amness, whichever word you like, this beingness isn't anything. The badness will disappear at some point. It's like a bundle of energy caught in the body. It's just karma, basically. I can have these thoughts sometimes that arise, like I am bad, or I am good, or like these initial thoughts, and it's just an energy that's in your body, and it could also be from the outside, like it could be somebody else's that you're picking up on. But the key to it is that's not who you are. Who you are is the I am. When you're really identified, you're just you believe you are bad, but you're not really conscious of that. You're just in this like lost world of like, they're bad, they need to pay for what they did, or I'm so guilty, or this mental agony.
Right.
And then then all types of dramas are created in your life, and so it's just coming back to this initial belief. And then that belief will change because everything changes. And as it's in that moment of flux, then all that's left is I am. And then maybe another one comes in, I am good. but before that I am good comes in, there is just I am. I am. This is. This is everything. That I am is everything. It's not a I as in like a somebody. It's like this is. There is that everythingness.
I can feel like how, like the base level of irritation. It feels like irritation, like deep in the belly, and that sometimes like turns into like extreme seeking, and that can turn into the pain body, which if identified with, then that spins out.
Yeah, I don't think irritation, like I am irritated, is the base.
Yeah.
I think underneath that it's maybe like I hate, or it's even deeper than that, than I hate.
Yeah.
So it might be I hate as another step. And then underneath it's like maybe, like I hate myself or a loneliness or like I am guilty or they're guilty or I've been abused, they've hurt me.
So I can go into that, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just holding on to it, like Ramana says, but then also knowing that there is no non-self that's holding on to it. It's just an appearance. Like, so you hold on to it, and then at some point that energy will change. The basic feeling that you're having, and then all that will be left is I am, which is everywhere. And then a new thought might come in, but there's this deeper and deeper connection with what you truly are, which is this beingness, this presence.
It sometimes feels like something like pushes the I am away. Like I don't know if that's even possible, like energetically.
Yeah, it's the seeking energy.
Yeah.
It can't really push the I am away because the I am is what you are, but it's the seeking energy coming in and trying to be something, like it's terrified of not being anything, because I am is like, it's nothing, and yet it's all things.
Right.
It's death. The walking death.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, always pleasure. It's always lovely to hear from you, Brian. Yeah,
thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.
Okay, we'll take one more call. I'm late tonight. Got pick me, but do you mean pick me for calling me? And there's another one that says call me. It's Mikhail. Amazing talk this morning. You really nailed it. Thank you for bringing such clarity to our experience and great mystery. Lots of love from Mikhail from BC. Yeah, with pleasure. Okay, we'll go with Luke. Yes, that's the last question for tonight. I'm a little late. I don't know how I got so late. Did we spend ages meditating? Maybe.
Hello.
Hey, Luke. Hey.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi. Thanks for calling. Or I called you. But if I could just ask you to keep your video off, just so it gives me all my internet for the stream.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out how to do that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, hello. It's nice to be on here. I've been following you throughout years. This is my first time calling you.
Yeah, nice.
And I've really enjoyed your evolution, so to speak. Your kind of the way you've grown since, I don't know, was it 8 years ago you started on YouTube?
No, I think longer than that.
Is it okay?
Yeah, like 10 years this year, I think. But actually, no, I think I started out on Facebook and all of that got deleted. So maybe on YouTube it was 8 years ago. And then all of the original stuff got deleted.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss like an issue that's come up for me in the last 3 or 4 years, and that is well, it all started about 10 years ago when I got into the non-dual path, and it's kind of got to a point where I'd assume I'm advanced at it now in inverted commas. And what happened in these 3 or 4 years is that life has been testing me through relationships with people.
Yeah.
So as far as I can see, the way I see it, it's the testing ground for my own progress has been through these relationships. And I've always found it quite hard to relate to different people, especially when there's like pressure cooker environments. So in these 3 or 4 years, I've been working abroad, and I noticed in my body I'm feeling even. You can tell in my voice as well. I'm feeling quite shaky even talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah.
See that? Yeah. So in these relationships with people, I've had to wrestle with my non-acceptance. So for the typical non-dual spiel, so to speak. Sorry, I'm not calling your
Yeah,
talk.
no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It's all about accepting, and witnessing what my projections onto other people, and so on and so forth. And even if they're behaving in a manner which is not particularly nice, amicable, friendly, and they can. And in these testing jobs I've had, they've been, because I'm so sensitive in these ways. I'm not sure if that's because I'm a sensitive person or because meditation has made me more sensitive. But I can really feel, well, for example, before 3 years ago, I'd be meditating my projections of them away, even when they're stressy and angry and bitchy and all of these things.
Yeah.
And so when I say non-acceptance, that's my problem I have with non-duality, so to speak, because it doesn't talk about expressing non-acceptance. So I'll give you an example. For example, I worked in a kids camp in Spain, and it's like an English camp where maybe there was like 100 different Spanish kids from different schools came to learn English and have a good time for the week, basically. And the manager there, one time she was she spoke to the kids. It was the first day. It was an introduction to the camp, and I was expecting her to be kind of like, hey, welcome to the camp, yay, woo, first day, yeah, introduction speech, and kind of make it a fun, relaxed way of introducing herself in the camp. But instead, and this wasn't every week, this is why I'm using an example as one week, she was really, really, really in a bad mood, and it came off like really quite sour. So this is just an example I'm giving you for where I get that energy in my body, and I'm recreating it now. As I noticed, as I said earlier, you'd feel this kind of this shaking, this trembling, and that was what it kind of felt like when I was feeling when she was speaking like that in the introduction. And so when I say non-acceptance, it's that kind of I had to say something about it. I had to approach in a way which was measured at the right time, and I had to use the correct words not to offend her or anything like this. So it had to be kind of a measured balance. And so so basically, for example, I can't remember the exact words I said, but noticing again, this is my manager, and it's very. I've been working there like 3 weeks. I didn't know her that well, and I had to go up to her straight afterwards and get the energy out of my body, which is feeling this tension. And again, people can say that's on me being overly sensitive or something like that. But for example, I just approached her and said basically what I said to you. I can't remember how I said it, but I said something along the lines of, this is how I feel about what you just said to them in there. I would have thought it would have gone something like this, because they're kids away from home for the first time. They're 10 to 12 years old. Why are you speaking like that? And of course, I wasn't sure how she would come back to me and say, she could have come back and say, what who are you to come and speak to me like this? I'm your manager. But she didn't. She was surprised. She was definitely shocked that I came up to her, because it was, I'm trying to paint a picture for you, that it was quite strange for me to do that. But because I had, in a way, the courage to jump and go, okay, this is not on, and jump to do it, I feel that's really important and missing in the non-dual or spiritual community, and that's non-acceptance, where the mindfulness is all about acceptance. Okay, she's had a bad day. Accept. And like sometimes, especially across people who haven't come across spiritual teachings, or just so-called normal people in inverted commas, and sometimes I need to express my non-acceptance to them. Otherwise, I can't just meditate it away.
Totally.
Yeah,
I think that's really beautiful. I think that's part of the process. I think that's maturing. Like, I think that you start out and you have these awakenings, and you see, like in the beginning, maybe the mind is so attached to what you want, what you need, like it's so identified with getting your needs, your wants met, and then that begins to relax, and then you begin to realize that passivity isn't the way in which it's appropriate to interact with society, and that really, even though the teachers encourage that, if you listen, you can also hear they're also trying to encourage the other part, but they just don't speak about it that much, because most people are in so much reactivity that there's an addressing of that. But it's totally true. And I have had to, I was into this subject, I'm now 40, and I got into this subject when I was in my late teens. And, I had to retrain myself after many awakenings and such stripping away. But I had to retrain myself to stand up for myself, because there was already a tendency for passivity. There was already a tendency for looking too much to what other people wanted and empathizing with other people. I had to retrain that in myself. And that is the difficulty with this subject. Like it is the difficulty, because I sometimes think about it, that my friends are currently getting more into this subject, and I can see how it's an important process for them to really have it like hammered into them that getting what they want isn't it. That getting that what they want and need isn't it. But then there also needs to be once that begins to settle down and there's a deeper reality seen, then there needs to be the other momentum where it's like you become really secure and safe in what you want and what you need and expressing that. So I really agree with you. And I can see in myself that I've not expressed that enough in the way I've talked in the past. And even now, it's a really hard thing to incorporate it all. But I really acknowledge that. And I think it's really true in the non-duality community. It can encourage too much passivity, and it also can not be clear enough to people that are already too passive, that not to go into that. Another dynamic that I see a lot is that people get into this mentality and they're not conscious of it, but they want so much to be at peace with people around them. So their biggest karma is to want people to be peaceful. So maybe they've had like very unhappy parents, or they've had to be the people pleaser in the family to keep the peace. That they get into non-duality, and what they like about non-duality is the idea that they'll become so empty of their own wants and needs, they'll keep peace with everyone around them, that they'll have no resistance to anything anyone ever says or does, and therefore peace will be finally met. And it's kind of that's actually a karma that they're buying into. Yeah, sorry, you want to speak?
Yeah, I agree. That's the trap. That's that was what I've noticed is when I started to express myself more. I've always been very quiet and introverted.
Yeah.
Once I started to, not necessarily even in non-acceptance or having a problem with someone or an action, just expressing what came to mind as soon as it came to mind was enough to use my mind in a live way, which people can feel. And then as soon as I did that, I noticed my relationship with them was so much better. Because instead of kind of processing them internally, I actually expressed myself as a live interaction, which was much more fulfilling.
Yeah, totally. I really agree with you. Yeah.
So
that's
thanks,
really
Lisa.
beautiful. Thank you for expressing that and saying that. I really appreciate it, because I think it is a massive issue that's not talked about enough in non-duality.
I've actually going to start and write an ebook about it. I mean, I've written about 50 or 60 things I've done in the last 3 years, and it's felt like a real rite of passage sort of thing. So I'm going to write.
Nice.
I'll let you know maybe
Yeah,
on Skype.
I can share it. Yeah. Nice.
Cool. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Steve. Yeah, really
Anything
lovely
else?
to speak with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, nice. So, Idia says, thank you, Lisa. Awesome, divine, magical wisdom sharing. So much adoration and love for the genuineness of you. Oh, thanks, Ida. That's sweet. Hi, Palveen. No, Palv. Sorry, I said your name wrong again. Hi, Jonas. Hi, Marnix. Hi, Carmela. Hi, Dennis. So I can't answer everybody's questions today, but I'm just saying hello to everyone. Thank you, Lisa, for the first call. Answered all my questions. And Sophie from France. Oh, nice, Sophie. Thank you. I think that's everyone I said hello to. And then Hassan. Hi, Hassan. Yeah, nice. So beautiful to share with you, and I shall see you next Sunday. I wish you everything. Not just one thing, everything. Everything. Lots of love.